Welcome to the Friendzy.
Hi, I'm Melissa Carter.
And I'm Jenn Hobby. The Friendzy's mission is to celebrate friendships over 40.
We believe that women can thrive through authentic relationships, self discovery, and spiritual exploration.
Our decades long friendship continues to grow because we are willing to go there and share our truths through life's highs and lows.
That's why the Friendzy is here to hold space for women who are 40 and older, because at this age, your story matters more than ever. I'm Melissa, and I just adopted my fourth cat. He was a stray, and I had a charity set up to take him. And when they said it's time, because he was too small when I found him, and when they said it was time, I couldn't do it. And so instead of calling me the crazy cat lady, I've just opened a cat cafe in my own house.
It really is a sweet story. You have to tell it real quickly.
So I went to the grocery store one night. A homeless woman said, "Excuse me, do you like cats?" And I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I do." And she had rescued two little baby kittens when a car had thrown them out of the car, thrown them out. And so the homeless woman witnessed this, went and got the kittens. And she said, "I can't feed them. I bathed them with some bottled water I found." And I'm like, "I'll take them." And I adopted one of them out to a great family. And then a charity said, "Well, he's too young for us to take now, but we'll give him dewormer. We'll, give him his shots. And in a month, we'll take him and adopt him out." And the month happened this past week, and I was like, I can't do it. I just can't, because he knew what he was doing from the very beginning. He was like up in my neck, up on my shoulder, up on my head, snuggled with me. And my other cats aren't big snugglers. And so I was like, okay. And my other cats are starting to play with them. And I'm like, okay. And I asked my son, I said, "Do you want to let him go, or do you want to keep him?" Because I taught him about fostering. And he said, "How about we keep him?" And I said, "Okay." So I've got 4 cats.
Hold on a second. I thought you only had 2 cats before.
So I had a cat that was 20 that passed away right before the pandemic. And I had another cat with her. And so then when my son missed that cat during the pandemic, we were like, let's adopt. And they wouldn't let us just take one. So then we had to take 2. And I had the one left over. So I had 3 then. And then these 2 guys came in the house. And I'm like, I can't have 5 cats. Come on. That's crazy. So I have 4.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's
Melissa Carter's Cat Cafe.
It's that's what I'm going to put a cat cafe sign in my house, because it's like, that's the way I'm turning it from being the crazy cat lady, because that's what I've become, to, I'm trying to put a positive spin on it.
Yes,
So.
as you should. As you should. Oh my gosh, I love that story. I think it's so great. Okay. Oh, my sweet friend
He's
Melissa.
he's a sweetheart, though. If you like cats, come over. You'll have a fun time
cute.
here.
So cute. Okay, I'm Jenn Hobby, and I got misty-eyed dropping my 3rd grader off at school today.
Did you really?
Something about today will be imprinted in my memory forever. It wasn't the first day of school. It wasn't like a big to-do day. I just dropped her off at school, and she just bounced out of the car so confident in her little school uniform. And she had her backpack on and her ponytail swishing, and she had her mask and her glasses on. And she just was confidently walking her way into her school building for 3rd grade. She knew where she was going. She didn't need an adult. And I
Oh,
got just misty-eyed, like, she's growing up too fast.
so sweet. No, she's
Oh my
growing up. It's not
goodness.
too fast. That's what I always tell people.
Woo!
We're raising adults. We're not raising children. So
I'm telling you,
you
it was one
tearing
of
up
those
now. Sweet.
it was one of those moments that just catches you off guard, and you go, it like the air caught in my throat a little bit, like, oh, it was such a joyful moment, but one of those milestones in time,
Oh, I love that. Well, you know what? Coming up on today's episode, it's similar to what you're talking about, except we're talking about college and kids going to college.
I know. We are going to talk about so many of our Friendzy friends who are dropping off kids at college right now. And we want to dive into some of those lessons that we can learn from that experience for those of us with young kids. And then, of course, reflect on our own college experience, because college, I mean, it's awesome.
Yes, I highly recommend college.
All right. Have you subscribed to the Friendzy podcast yet? If not, please do and leave us a review. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you are listening to podcasts.
And if you enjoy this episode of The Frenzy, please share it with a friend because we would love to have more women like you find out about our show. So, Jen Hobby, we are going to dive into this college conversation. But first, let's thank our sponsors.
Thank you.
Kick It Pajamas. It's hot in my house. You can get a discount if you go to Kick It Pajamas, and the code is Friendzy with a ZY at the end of friend. And then after that, go ahead.
Check your veins for lifeline screening.
Don't have a stroke. And if you go online, you can go use the code FRIENDS with the Z, not the Y. Jen and I have friends dropping off kids to college while we're still over here cutting meat for our kids into bite-sized pieces for dinner.
That's true. We're still wiping butts, and they are leaving them.
That's true.
Leaving them off into the world to start their own lives.
Well, imagine what you just said about, with your daughter in third grade. Imagine when she's walking into her dorm.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Melissa, I want to talk about our friends and what they are going through right now, because you and I both have best friends who are in the midst of that first time college dorm drop off. You got a text that stopped you in your tracks this week.
Yes, bless her heart. So I'm not going to say her name because I know she listens, because I know this is vulnerable for her. She doesn't know I'm going to read this. But one of my friends who I went to high school and college with, oddly enough, who I always look toward for guidance because she's so emotionally intelligent. Like, she's that rock in your group, right? Nothing ever unsettles her. But I got this text from her when she dropped her daughter off to college. And so her daughter is going to college in a different state than where she lives. And so this is the text. I'm struggling. We took her daughter to college today. Pretty much all of us are basket cases. It's such a struggle to let her go. I'm so afraid I fell short as a mom to her. I was clueless when she was born. It's going to tear me up. I feel like her whole childhood flew by me. And the whole time I was not nearly as intentional with her as a mom as I should have been. It's been such a hard day. And I wrote her back. I said, honey, first of all, you're a fantastic mother. Every mother feels like they fall short. But just feeling that by itself shows that you care. And then I went on and we had a text exchange. But I was really surprised.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know your friend, and that's making me cry.
By this drama-less woman who just was incredibly insecure by the experience, because to our point, we've said off air, it feels, the chapter has ended in her, her living at home, and now she's living somewhere else. And her reflection is, did I do a good enough job?
Right.
And of course she did, but it was, so I have a feeling that seems to be, maybe a similar theme with a lot of mothers who are having to let go of their children.
Well, and first of all, if your friend's gotten a kid to college or to a job out of high school, you have done a really good job, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
yes.
You have been there, you have guided, you have done all the right things. If you're even going through that experience of sending your child off to college, you've given them that chance to become independent people.
Yeah.
So you should be proud at that time. But I imagine it does come with a whole lot of sadness and reflection at that time.
And she has other daughters, and this is her oldest, so this is her first experience. And it also makes you wonder how you handle it, because I only have one child, so this will be one experience for me, I assume, unless I blend a family before then. But with her, she's got two others that I'm sure her efforts with them may change based on that reflection that day.
Yeah, there's something about that mark in time. It's definitely that timeline where it's this big transition. But my question is it an ending or a beginning or both?
I can't. I mean, you and I aren't anywhere near that space, right? So your oldest is in third grade. My son is in first, and I know that. Katie and my baby mama, it's been what is it going to be like when he graduates high school? It'll be like, for her, it's like we we did it, expletive, we did it, right? We got him through school. We got him to for those who have, it makes me think of those who have children who may have learning disabilities or may have, some kind of physical disability. Think about just the accomplishment. And for those who are lucky enough to have children who live to be old enough to graduate high school, it's like, that's going deep and dark, but
Mm.
still, I think that it should be a celebration. And to your point, it's sad, but it's almost like a mourning. It's almost like you have to look at the mourning process and understand that you have to go that on some level. Nobody has died, but you're still losing something that you're used to, and you're having to accept the fact that there's a new normal, right?
Yes. I talked to one friend whose daughter's going off to college, and she was feeling like their family wouldn't feel the same coming back home. Because, like your friend, she had one younger daughter, and she was like, "We don't know how to be a family of three. We know how to be
Right.
a family of four." So it's adjusting that dynamic. And the younger daughter was apprehensive about it because she was like, "Oh no, am I going to get all the parents' attention now? I
Right.
don't know if I want that."
Right.
you know? Um,
Well,
and then
I was the youngest by far. My
Mhm.
siblings went to college when I was in elementary school, and it was a completely different lifestyle for me. I became an only kid. I mean, I lived the life of an only kid, honestly, majority of my life. I did not live a life with siblings. Even though I have them, it's not the same as other people with their siblings because we were 10 years apart, and it was a different dynamic. And but there was in my school pictures, there was a friend of mine that pointed out, I don't know, we were farting around with yearbooks or something, and she pointed out, she said, what happened between here and here? Because I had this like big beaming smile in one picture, and then I had a kind of a not as big smile the next year. And I said, oh, that's when my siblings went to college. So it did affect me there in the beginning
Interesting.
because, for the younger, the parents are having a hard time, but the younger siblings, especially if they had a good relationship with the older sibling, it's hard, it's hard for them as well. So it's kind of like my friend when she says we are struggling, it's because that's a family of five that is now a family of four. And again, because the sister is going, you have to travel to get to her. It's not like any college that's nearby. It's, for them, it's really hard. And it makes you remember, yeah, I remember there was a hole in the house, but then, it was filled, and you adapt and you move on. But change is hard. It's really hard.
Definitely.
Mhm.
I have a best friend who, just dropped off her daughter at college in another state, and her daughter was so nervous the first day they got there that she wouldn't leave the hotel room.
Oh, bless her.
Like, to even
Aw.
go walk around the campus or go check things out, she
Aw.
was just so nervous, she was almost paralyzed, like, that first day, and I got a text going,
Oh.
"This is not going well." This is you know, and then I got a text the next day that was, just pictures of the dorm move-in day and, getting the new bed set up and the desk
Yes,
and, unpacking boxes and clothes and all that stuff, and so that was a much more happy day. And I think that from the hotel room to the dorm room, it's like something about that day sort of opened her up because her daughter looked like she had some nervous energy still, but a lot more confident than what it sounded like on the
oh,
first day. But
bless her
you know,
heart.
I think of it as an ending of the child rearing stage and also as a new beginning in your new house. But it's like a new way to have a relationship with your child
Absolutely.
because the friend that I'm talking about struggled at times with her teenage daughter. They went through those times where they weren't best friends, where it was
Right.
hard in the house with a teenager and hormones and just that struggle. I was a terrible teenager for a couple of years and yelled words like I hate you and
Oh,
things I
yeah.
regret,
I thought my mother was the devil. Yeah, I mean, I
Yes.
millipede, who I adore and just honor, but there were at 17, I thought she was the devil for sure.
Right, and so,
Simply because she's trying to tell me what to do.
yeah, exactly. So, I've witnessed this relationship go through some tough years, and I'm excited about a new beginning for them because I think it's gonna be good for her
Yeah.
to miss her mother.
Yes.
She's going to
Oh,
now realize how much
yeah.
her mom did for her, how she was a good friend to her, how she was there for her, and their relationship can evolve and start this new friendship. right? The parenting part is over, but the friendship part can begin.
Well, I love
And
that
I'm
it's the little
excited for
things.
her.
It's the little things. "Mom, how do you get a stain out of a shirt? Mom, how do you do this?" Because that's what I was called Millie
Yes.
Pete with is and
Or
again,
how do you get a prescription? I
yeah,
didn't have to go get my own stuff at a pharmacy, right, until college, and you're calling your mom,
yeah.
"Wait a minute, how do I
"How do you
even
do
get
this? What
medicine?"
is
I
this?
used to just show up,
What
right?
does this mean?" And by the way,
Yeah.
if you hear purring in the microphone, it's because
Oh
this
my
kitten who I
gosh.
adopted is now clingy and wanting to be next to my neck. So if you
That
hear
is
purring,
one smart kitten.
see,
I'm telling you
he
what.
knew
You
he
know,
knew
he's like,
what to
"I'm gonna
do.
work this."
He knew what to do. Now let me talk about your, us in college, because
Yeah.
we're talking about this, it reminds me of different things. Because as you were talking about your friend, I went to college. I started my freshman year at Middle Tennessee State University. So I did not start at the college that I graduated from.
Okay.
And
Why?
and
Why'd you make the switch?
the reason, has a lot to do with, kind of the question I had about your friend's kid, because MTSU was close to my hometown of Columbia, Tennessee. It was an hour and a half, but still it was close. It was a, easy drive. UT was 3 or 4 hours away from my hometown, and most of my friends were going to Middle Tennessee State University. My brother and sister graduated from Middle Tennessee State University, and I got a scholarship to MTSU. So that was an easy choice. And so my roommate in my freshman year in college was a high school friend, and a bunch of my high school friends were there. So my first day at MTSU was not stressful because I was used to the campus. I'd been to ball games there with my siblings.
Mhm.
I, knew people there. My ex-girlfriend was going to school there. And so it was a familiar campus, but it was too familiar. The longer I was there, it's like, okay, you know what? I was comfortable with the idea of being with all my friends again, but I didn't feel like I was getting the college experience. I thought, you know what? I'm not facing that fear of doing something bigger or going, for
Mhm.
myself. And I had a buddy at UT who every time she came home, she'd talk about the campus and talk about the experience and all this stuff. And I was jealous. I was absolutely jealous. So I went to my mother. I said, I think I wanna leave MTSU and go to UT, and she was thrilled because she loved the idea. I think she loved the idea of one of her children going to UT because she liked the idea of the big university. She had gone to the University of Kentucky, and my father gone to the University of Kentucky, so she was excited, and then my father wasn't so much because he's like, "But you got a scholarship to MTSU,
Right.
and now we gotta pay because they were the parents that paid, and they were like, "And now we gotta pay for UT." But he used to work at UT, and so he's like, "All right, fine." So, they let me transfer. So I spent the remainder of my college at UT, and I
What
think
year did you switch? Was it freshman or sophomore?
sophomore.
Sophomore
And
year, okay.
so, and I had done the Greek life at MTSU, so I joined a sorority. I will say a Chi Mega. I will, no offense to the Chi Megas at UT, but when I transferred and I went to a chapter meeting, I was not very impressed. And so the one regret I have about doing that is the fact that I wasn't active with the Chios the rest of the time because
Mhm.
they were the snooty ones at the time at UT, and I was like, I
Oh,
just they were
didn't
just
fit.
Oh god, they were like the stereotype that you see in these movies of the worst mean girls,
Oh.
and so I'm like, "No, I can't do that." And so anyway, so that's one regret I have that I wasn't active in the chapter after that, but, I had a fantastic time at UT. I'm proud to have gotten my degree at
Mhm.
UT, and, I hung out with one of my best friends that's up there, but I met friends from everywhere, and I felt like an adult. I felt like I was on my own, um and it was a wonderful experience, and that's what the college experience should be. It should be, to me, that you were raised in a certain way. College allows you to decide whether that's the way you wanna be, or you get to find out your own path and your own belief system. And so,
And it's like that in between stage where you're
yeah,
not fully on your own yet, you're not fully alone yet, but you're not under your parents' roof anymore.
right. There's a
And it's
loose
that
tether, there's a safety net. There's a safety
yeah.
net in college. But, I was raised to understand that at 18 you're an adult, and I raised my son the same way. It's like you're not an adult at 22 and 20, you're an adult at 18. And so you're making your own decisions in college. I hopefully I'm in the position where I can fund it and I'm there if he needs me, but I'm not there. I mean, these decisions are yours.
Mhm.
I'm not your backup plan. I'm just there in an emergency. This is your mistakes and your successes are yours. And so, and I think parents need to, when you mourn, like you mentioned with your daughter, and I hear Katie always talking about where'd my baby go with our son. It's like, no, you have to look at them as adults. We're molding adults. And so, yes, the baby part is for us, but they're adults and they need to be treated as such. And I think the sooner you do that, the better off they're going to be in college and beyond.
I think for me, the college experience was so fun because I had grown up going to a very small private school. So
Mhm.
my circle of friends was small. I had known most of the kids in my class from like fourth grade or sixth grade. You didn't date anybody. You were just all brothers and
Right.
sisters. Like, so it was this very small high school and middle school experience, which was great for so many reasons. And then I got to go to Florida State University. And I was like,
Culture shock.
let me see if I can be a big fish in a big pond because I've been
Mhm.
in this tiny pond for so long.
Yep.
And that was so exciting to me. I was like ready. I was not homesick at all. I went home to work for that first summer after freshman year. I went home and worked in my dad's office. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. It lasted 6 weeks, and I was like,
Wow.
"Mom and Dad, I'm gonna go back and take some summer classes. Can you get me into a dorm?" So I moved in for the second half of the summer, and,
And
I've
never
I've
look
never
back.
looked back. Yeah, I was ready for that independence and,
Mhm.
starting my own life. So many great memories of college. God, it's just such a special 4-year time
Yeah.
that is not like any other time in your entire life.
Right.
So
And I think it's because you're finding yourself. I mean, again,
mhm,
that's the point. I think that to really take advantage of college is to face that fear, like talk to somebody you don't know. Take a class. My mother talked about college and how it made her afraid. Um eh, but in a good I mean, like it made her afraid because it was a different belief. So she came from an ultra small community and had around her family and her extended families, and she was in this insulated environment for so long. She gets to UK and she's like, there are so many different belief systems, so many different religions. That's what she was most unsettled
mhm,
by. She said, it scared me. It scared me to understand that what I was raised with is not necessarily the only thing that's out there. And if you come from a small town, that's what you think. And college can be a very scary place. But if you embrace it like she did and understood, oh, there's so many commonalities. That college is where she learned we have so much more in common than we don't.
mhm.
And I think for me, it's yes, I met people from different religions, different ethnic backgrounds, different countries. Like, I didn't meet anybody from a different country in my small town. I mean, so it's like it was, to me, it was just the world opens up to you if you allow it to in college. And I agree with you. It's just fall in Knoxville, Tennessee was the beautiful experience, and to be with all these, you're at the beginning of your independence, and I was surrounded by people who are so excited by that, right? And I was excited by that. And so anyway, yeah, college I think is a great opportunity if you allow it to be, and parents should encourage their children to be independent in college and not, I sometimes I think parents have to let go when you go
Yeah,
to college.
except for the laundry. I remember driving home in
Yes.
my Honda Accord and it was just stuffed with laundry in the back seat because it was like, "Oh, I didn't get around to it at the dorm," or whatever. I
I
don't wanna sit
promise
in the
now.
laundry room for too long, and so I just remember there being, like, baskets and baskets full of laundry in my trunk and in my back seat when I would pull up to my mom and dad's house in St. Pete. My mom would be like, "Oh, well, I'm glad you brought some things home with you."
Now let me ask about this. I guarantee you, do you think now that you're a mom, do you think Nan was really disappointed that you brought laundry home?
She was probably excited. She's like, "Yeah, I get
Because
to do something."
if Mr. Carter brings laundry home, I'm gonna be happy. Now, I doubt he I
Don't
mean,
tell him that,
I
but you
doubt
will
he
be
will,
happy
but I
about it.
will be happy if he comes home because he needs, even if he doesn't admit it. Because that's Katie's philosophy, which I've said on the show before, is that our goal with our son is that he wants to come home. It's his idea to come home from college or as an adult. And that was her litmus test on whether we were good parents. If he chooses to come home for anything, then we did our job and we were good parents. And because if you're a micromanaging helicopter parent, that kid's not coming home.
Yeah, they're like, "I'm gonna go to
I'm out of
Europe
here.
for
Yes,
college.
exactly.
I'll be attending
Exactly.
somewhere in Great Britain, Oxford."
Oxford, that's right.
So if you could go back and do anything differently in your college years, other than the KIO thing, what would you
Yeah.
redo differently?
Um, I think I would have. Gosh, that's a good question because I just recently had a luncheon. I still contribute to the University of Tennessee. I
Mhm.
have a scholarship there, and a representative from UT who does his tours of alumni. He and I went to lunch the other day, and it's funny that we talk about this because he and I had that conversation, and I think it would have been more of not just trying to get through college. Toward the end, when you see the goal line, there's an idea that I'm just gonna get through, and I enjoyed the time with my friends. I mean, I wouldn't have done that any differently. I made some great friends that I'm still friends with, but I would have I would have planned for myself. It would have been, "Okay, what does the adult Melissa need to do?" I was more depending on the university to get me my job rather than me really constructing this idea of what I wanted to see myself doing, and I would have appreciated leadership in that, and that's what I said to the guy at UT. I'm like, these kids don't know what they don't know what they wanna do for the rest of their life, and they may try some things, but there should be better guidance, I think, within the universities, just that senior year, just to say, "Okay, let's just talk about it. What job would be cool? What do you think? Let's figure out a way to do it." So I think I would have, my senior year would have spent if I'd spent more time thinking about my first year of working life and what that looked like. I fell into a great job, but I found that the beginning of my career was falling into things, and I think uh I wish I would have understood that I had permission to plan it better.
Mm, that's good. I think I would have crammed less and taken more time to study along the way. Like, if I could go back and redo college as an adult, don't you think you would absorb so much more of your classes now?
I would have taken different well, that's the problem is if I took it now, if I went back to college with the knowledge I have now, I probably would have taken longer to get through his class because I would have wanted to take a variety of things. We
Had
were
multiple majors and
Yes,
yes, and just
absolutely.
stacked more things on top. But I
Yes.
just remember cramming a lot where I would just kinda social life was very important to me. I too was in a sorority, Kappa Alpha Theta, loved it. Very social, and that was important because I didn't have that growing up in high school as much as I wanted to. So I filled that bucket, and then I would kind of cram. And I was smart enough that I could get by doing that, but I didn't retain a lot of the information that I wish
Mhm.
I now retained. So if I could go back and do it differently, I think I would have studied a little bit more along the way and not been, up all night cramming until going to the test. And that was right when energy drinks came out, so I remember people, like, having a Red Bull to stay up all
Oh my
night and
gosh,
cram and
yeah.
study, and then going to class the next day and just feeling, like, headachy and, like, "How did I even just take that test?" You know?
Yeah, I probably also would have learned about, auto mechanics more because my parents got me
Random?
this crappy well, it
That's
reminded me of
awesome.
a quick story. My parents got me a Datsun B210
Ooh,
to take to college, and
vintage already.
vintage already, and I believe it was the starter didn't work. Anyway, there's this piece of the starter apparently that's kind of, the wire is kind of a webbing, and if it gets loose, it doesn't anyway, or it could have been crap though, I was told. But basically, my brother, when he was little, got an Atlanta Braves mini bat, which they still sell. And I took that because obviously my brother was long gone and left it behind. And I had to use that in order to start the car. So basically, when I started my Datsun B210 and I would get on my way to school, and then I'd have to pull over to get gas. Once I stopped, the car wouldn't restart unless I beat the starter. So I would have to lift the hood, take this little mini bat and beat, and then start the car. And I remember the looks, especially from men who saw this young girl who got out of her car and was beating the hell out of something under the hood before she left and thinking, what the hell is she doing? And I would have probably I was very nervous in that car, but yeah, I was, why the hell you get me a crappy, get your kid a good car to go to college with. Even if you buy a used car, make sure the parts work.
But if they
Anyway.
did that, you wouldn't have this great story to tell about beating
Yeah,
your
so
car to
that's the
start.
purpose. Thanks, Dad. This is the purpose of your Datsun B210 purchase was so I could tell. But yeah, but that's part of college though. And the passenger door in that car, Jen, would not close all the way, so I had to use a bungee cord. So
Of
when
course.
buddies were in the car, I was
Mhm.
there, like I had to reach out, excuse me, and hook the bungee cord to the whole, the handle of the passenger door. And they're like, why do I said, well, if I turn a curve, you're gonna fall out. So yeah, anyway, that's another college story. There's so many. There's so many.
A
But
million.
but here's your reminder to share your story, okay? College, I mean, you've thought one right now. So open up the story because your story matters and tell these, like our friends who are kids are going to college, that tell these stories about when you were in college and the stuff that you had going on because your story matters just
It
as much as
does.
theirs.
And all of us can learn from the stories that you share. So if you've got kids going off to college, we want to hear from you. Reach out to us on Facebook or on Instagram to share your thoughts on this transition stage in life. Is it an ending? Is it a beginning? Is it both? And how are you feeling through it? We want to hear from you always.
What crappy car did you drive? We can share that too.
Yes.
God.
And what test did you cram for or fail?
Mm.
We've got a Facebook page. You can find us at The Friendzy and also on Instagram, The Friendzy as well.
Quick story before we take a break. Did you ever get a low grade in a class?
Yes, I had to take dinosaurs and disasters twice because I got a D in it. And at Florida State, they gave you one grace class
Yeah.
to redo. I retook it and I got a C.
Dinosaurs and disasters. That
Doesn't it sound
sounds
like fun? Yeah, no, it
wonderful.
wasn't fun. It was a miserable, difficult, challenging, horrible course that I would not recommend anybody ever taking.
Well,
But I
I
picked it because the name seemed like fun,
yeah,
and it ended up being one of the toughest
yes.
classes I've ever taken.
So a friend of mine was taking
Horrible.
black and white photography, and I'm like, "Oh, black white photography. That sounds fantastic." Made a D as
Yeah.
well. So, sounds fun, shitty class, pardon my language.
Yeah, if it sounds too fun, don't take it, kids.
Don't
Don't
take
take
it.
it.
Yeah, take economics, take all that stuff. All right. All right, let's grab a quick question out of the You Do Not Know My Life box. All right, and here we go. And you can, I mean, these are great. These are great for what we have a listener that uses this for meetings, for icebreakers and
Yes.
meetings.
Yes, she has a team meeting like once a week and she'll steal the Frenzy You Don't Know My Life questions to ask her team and it opens everybody up and starts everybody in a good mood. So
All right,
steal these.
here's another one for you. What's a place or event that you snuck into?
Oh. eh. I mean, I have a story. I don't know if I want to share it, but I can.
Well, that's one that I want to hear.
Yeah, for sure. It takes a little background sharing, but
You don't have to share if you don't want to, but we always tell people to share their stories because they're important. And just curious. I can go first if you want to think about it.
I'm just trying to figure out how to frame it. So
Okay.
yes, you go first.
Okay. Well, this does have to do with college, but it's when my sister was in college, and this is something that my parents would not be happy with. So that's the other thing about when your kids go to college, just you have to let go because they need experiences. You don't have to know everything. And my mother had that philosophy. I don't need to know everything, is what she told me. I appreciate that. When I left home. So my sister, when she was in college at MTSU, my best friend and I were 14 years old. And my sister wanted to go out dancing one night, and there was a bar near campus, and she's like, I know the bartenders and I know the front door guy. And she's like, I'm going to sneak you into this bar. And she's like, in Shirley Temple. She said, remember Shirley Temple? And when you go to the bar, no, it was actually wasn't Shirley Temple. We knew about Shirley Temple, but she said when you go to the bar, you can, get a rum and Coke to seem like you're an adult, but my friend knows to just give you the Coke. So she was instructing us, just know that always add Sprite or Coke to your drink order, and then you seem like you're fitting in. So at 14 years old, my friend and I snuck into this bar, and we would go to the, hey, can I have a rum and Coke? And we get a regular Coke, and then we dance. And oh my God, these these guys, we were dancing with these guys, and either they were creepers or we pulled it off.
Totally.
But yeah,
They were total creepers.
so at 14, I snuck into my
Oh my
sister's college
gosh.
bar.
That is so young. That is
I was
awesome.
too young. That is too,
Oh
too
my
young.
gosh.
But
Okay, that
yeah,
reminds me of a story now of sneaking in. So, when I was in college, of course, everybody wanted to have a fake ID to go to the clubs that were only 21 and up, right?
right.
And so there were a lot of difficult ones that you would never try your fake ID on because they'd always take it. But I remember one of the most glorious days. A friend of mine who was like a year older than me had gone out to a club and he found an ID on the floor and he
Mm,
picked it up and it sort of barely kind of only looked like me because she had blonde hair. Okay.
okay.
Our faces did not look anything alike, but she had blonde hair. And I remember James calling me going, Jen, you're not going to believe this. I found you a fake ID. This thing was tattered around the edges, frayed, old. It was like almost like blue tinted. It was probably someone else's fake ID that they had gotten from someone else, from someone else, from
Of
someone else,
course,
right? I mean,
yes.
and I accidentally dropped it on the ground, but man, I used that thing for like 2 years. It was awesome. And I had the whole thing memorized. I don't think I could recite it to you now, but in college, I could recite
Oh,
to
I
you
bet.
where she was from, her address. I memorized all of that and definitely got into some of the nightclubs that were 21 and up.
Because sometimes those old IDs too, the plastic would bubble up over certain parts, and so I wondered if it
Oh,
bubbled up over
yeah.
the picture, which would make it harder to see,
There
but
was a bubble, and I remember it was that top right side was really crinkled and frayed, and but it worked for a
it
little while.
worked.
It got me into the late night library.
Oh, you had a
Yeah.
library on campus too?
Oh, yeah, late night library,
Ours was called
yeah.
the library.
But the one that you never would get into is called Bullwinkle's. You never use it because they had the
Mm,
toughest, door guys, and
yeah.
they would take your fake ID and get you in trouble, so you didn't go to Bullwinkle's, but you could sneak it into the late night library.
That's hilarious. And again, parents who are sending their kids to college don't
You you
don't
don't
worry
need
about
all
it.
the
You don't
stories.
need to be like Millie Pete. I don't need to know everything. That's I distinctly remember her telling me that. Because my sister would try to shock her with some of my sister and my mother's relationship, very interesting. So my sister would always like overshare just to make my mother angry. And so I remember it was after one of those incidences where my mother, when I went, said, "You know what, Melissa? I don't need to know everything." I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she didn't. So
So good, so good. All right, Melissa Carter has this week's mirror mantra.
so this is for you, and it's also for your kids who are leaving, but it's mainly for you, because I had a friend say the other day something that I thought was so, I don't know, I'd never heard it before, and it was so impactful for me. So, the line, experience is the best teacher. Okay. So that's part of what I'm telling you, is part of the mantra today. Experience is the best teacher, but it doesn't have to be your experience. Meaning that if you want to learn from struggles, it doesn't have to be your struggles that you necessarily learn from. That there's a plethora of intelligence and wisdom around you. Now, we here at the Friendzy encourage you to share your wisdom, because your story is very important, but also listen to the stories of everybody else. We're in a climate right now where everybody just wants to talk and nobody wants to listen. And so this guy said this to me the other day because, it was something his father always told him. It's like, pay attention to what's going on around you and pay attention to the stories of other people, because you can learn as easily from other people without you having to go through that. So again, experience is the best teacher, but it doesn't necessarily have to be your experience. And so, sometimes it's okay to have to go through it first person in order to be affected by it. Like Jen and I, with our best friends who are dropping off their kids to
Mhm.
college, and the reflection, the internal reflection they have about this, and my friends, just bless her heart, just having a pity party over it is something I can learn from, so that the day that I drop Mr. Carter off to college, that I don't have that same regret. Um, and that's something, so I can learn from her as well.
So good. Awesome. Okay. Now it is time for us to finally answer the Frenzy 5. How have we been doing this show for this long and we never have answered our own Frenzy 5 questions?
We're in our second season of the Frenzy, and we realized in talking, we've never answered these. So Jen Hobby's in the hot seat today, and I'm going to
And
ask
I
her.
really have not given them much thought, so this will be rapid fire.
Good. Well, okay, then I'll tell you what. We always, Jen, you're in the hot seat.
Okay.
Don't no pressure. Just tell us
Got
the
it.
first thing that's on your mind. These are easy. Okay. Are
Oh,
you
okay.
ready? Where is your cozy happy place?
Okay, my cozy happy place is probably laying out next to a pool with something fizzy to drink and a really good book.
Very nice. What's your favorite framed thing in your home?
It's probably a picture of our family that we have inside the front door. I think
Okay.
that's the right answer on that one. Yeah, because it's not a picture that was taken from a professional photographer. It was just at a friend's house, and I happen to be holding Reese and Grant is holding Lauren, and it just was one of those snaps that ended up being really good.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick glimpse and moment in time, and it's not a perfect picture, but it's perfectly unperfect.
Boy, next time I come over, I'm going to pay attention because I'm trying to visualize that picture. All right. What's your most memorable birthday?
One of them is when Grant surprised me with a surprise party, and it was for a random date. It was like, I was like 36 or
Yeah.
something. Like, it was not a birthday where you would typically have a big party or a big surprise party, but
That's how
I
he cut you
just
off guard. That's awesome.
yeah, it was like, "What? I'm only 36." Or I can't even remember what number it was because it was so irrelevant to the celebration. It's just that it was the first time anybody had actually really pulled off a surprise, and
Nice.
he loves doing that, and yeah, it was you were probably there. It was, downstairs at that cool restaurant in Inman Park. Anyway, we can take this part out of it, but, 'cause I can't remember. Parish maybe was the name of
Oh,
it?
yes, yes, yes. I remember that. Yes, it
Remember?
was.
And it was
Yes.
downstairs at Parish, and he
Yes.
just took me there saying we were going out to dinner
Yes.
for my birthday, and it was a random birthday, so I was like, "Cool, we're just going out to dinner for my birthday,"
I do
and I
remember
remember
that.
walking downstairs and
Yes.
all of my friends were there. I was like, "What? How did you do
That's
that?"
right. Because I remember, I think we were maybe running a few minutes late, and I remember driving because the drive was up by the building, and you went in the back, and I remember thinking, "Let me make sure that, that if she's not here yet."
Messing up the
I
surprise.
know, right? Let Melissa screw that up. All right, so, what's a daily routine or ritual that you stick to?
Coffee. And I picked up a daily ritual from one of our guests on the show. It was from Melissa Proctor, who is CMO of the Atlanta Hawks.
Mhm,
And she said that she started every day with her Bible app,
mhm.
and which she started every day with scripture. And I had been looking to dive into my spiritual journey further at the moment that she said that. So a couple weeks after our podcast, I just emailed her and said, "Hey, there's a thousand different apps out there that you can choose from." And she told me which one. And I've been using it every day since. And it is a great way to start the day sort of centered and with meditation, and to set your intentions for the day rather than allowing the day to get away from you and start with anxiety of all the other things that you have to do. And
Mhm.
I think that it's been transformative for me because, and you know this, as morning show radio people, you have to like wake up and work
Yeah,
immediately. Like your
yeah.
mind immediately has to go to like, what is in the news cycle? What do I need to be aware of? What's happening here locally? Well, how am I going to say something?
Yeah, you don't ease into your morning as a
No,
morning
you
show
kind of
host.
you like all of a sudden you're like up thinking and presenting information to the world very quickly.
Right.
And so I always for a lot of years, I mean decades, plural,
Mhm.
woke up sort of immediately hit the ground into my to-do list, and that's an anxious and really terrible way to start the day
Yeah.
because it sets you on this trajectory of always feeling behind. And so starting the day with the app is just like my moment to have some coffee, to reflect, to remember, and to just, be with God's word for a minute. And I've never been in my life a super duper religious person. I wouldn't say I'm a religious person. I would say I'm a spiritual person. And this has really helped guide me down that journey. So I'm appreciative for the new ritual that I stick to now
Yeah.
after starting the Friendzy.
Well, and Melissa Proctor, great interview in the first season, if you want to listen to it and haven't. And also, I remember as a morning show host, I was envious when people said, "Yeah, I'm just waking up, having my first cup of coffee." And I'm thinking, my first cup of coffee was coming. I had already worked by the time I even fixed that first cup of coffee, right? So, all
Mhm.
right. So, final question, the Frenzy 5. You're almost done, Jen Hobby. What fashion trend did you jump on?
Okay, I have thought about this one every time we ask everybody, and they are flat-footed on what to say. I do remember shoulder pads
Yep.
were a thing for a little while in the
Yes.
80s,
Yes.
but I was kinda young in the 80s, so I remember shoulder pads, and then I also remember a phase of bell bottoms
Mm-hmm.
in high school. There was a time where like, the old school
But
bell
they
bottoms
called
came
them
back,
but they didn't call them bell bottoms when they resurged. They called them what
like
was it? Flared. Yes, flared
flared
jeans.
jeans.
Yes, they didn't call them bell bottoms. Right, right,
Right, because bell bottoms were the '70s, and I
right.
remember going back into my mom's closet and, like, finding some of her old bell bottoms and wearing them to school, and then I was real cool because it was not flared, it was, like, the legit vintage
Right.
ones. But yes, so I would say shoulder pads and flared pants,
I love it. There's your
and
band name.
I don't have any of those in my closet anymore, I promise.
Yeah. Oh, shoulder pads. Uh, and I did both. I did both. Uh
All right. Is there a friend of yours who would enjoy this episode of The Frenzy? Please share this with her. On Apple Podcasts, it's easy to do when you're looking at the podcast. Look for those three little white dots in the top right corner. Click on those. And then in that drop down menu, you can select share episode and text it right there to your friend.
Yeah, and check out our Friendzy YouTube channel, your Friendzy YouTube channel. It's all of ours. We're a community, but we are on YouTube. We have extended interviews there. Some bloopers find their way in, and we also want you to please sign up
And
for
so
our.
do kittens.
And so do kittens. That's right. In this episode, if you watch the YouTube channel for this episode, you'll see my new kitten who has not yet been named. I wouldn't name him. I told my son we're not going to name him because we're not going to keep him. Well, now we got to find a name.
Oh,
All
yeah,
right,
we
so.
do.
And he's a black cat. So I was like, oh, Halloween, something cool. His brother's name was Salem, by the way. The family named him Salem. I thought that was
Oh,
neat. Anyway,
cute.
all right. So sign up for our weekly email and we will send you the episode right to your inbox. We make it very easy for you. We include links to things we discuss and give you deeper insights to these topics. You sign up at thefrenzy.com.
And big thanks to our listeners who have already subscribed to our email list. Thanks to Helen Copeland, Linda Stewart, and Jeannie Sandoval. Thank you so much for signing up. We will only send one episode to your inbox each week. We do not bug the crap out of you.
Correct. And we don't sell your information. The Friendzy is hosted and produced by myself, Melissa Carter, and Hottie McHottie over there, Jen Hobby.
Sound editing by Bo Johnson.
Original soundtrack produced by Tammy Hurt for Placement Music, written and recorded by Mark Daniels.
The Friendzy celebrates friendships over 40. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We love your friendship with a Z.
There you go. Hey,
Friendship.
right. Yeah. Yes. I like it.
Friendship.
Friendship.
Friendship. We'll work on that.
Until next week, trust your gut.
Share your story.
And stop lying about your age. Goodbye. Have a good one.
We love you.
Mwah. Good luck with the kids.